want to welcome you to this agenda review meeting, originally being conducted on Tuesday, March the 16th at 12:30. This is an agenda review workshop for our regularly scheduled City Commission meeting for Thursday, March 18. Pursuant to Governor Lee's Executive Order number 78, this meeting is being conducted electronically, and so we'll begin with the calling of the roll. Mr. Peterson, would you read the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Well, I don't have this written down in alphabetical order, so I'm gonna wing this. Commissioner Brock.
Here.
Commissioner Hunter.
Here.
Commissioner Murphy.
Here.
Vice Mayor Fowler. And Mayor Wise.
Present.
Okay.
I know we have some staff with us on specific topics, but we also may want to just get commission questions. Why don't we go ahead and identify those items the individual commissioners have questions on, and then once Mr. Peterson has that, he can kind of chart a plan of sequencing those. Commissioner Brock, do you have any items that you wish to address? You're muted.
Thank you. Some explanation on the two top bids there, 7.2.1 and 7.2.2.
All right, thank you. Are those the only ones you have?
Yes.
All right, Commissioner Hunter.
The only thing I was going to ask about was the hiring for temporary summer staff and how that, if we're progressing well with that, which is in the other items section.
I'll answer that one real quick. That is an exceptional struggle. The ETSU students aren't here, so that has greatly impacted us. And there is lots of work available out there. We're hiring. Steve and the HR group are going through all the right steps. We've even adjusted some pay on some positions. We're making hires, but it's going to be a slow process.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So if you, your friends, your children have friends, anybody that's 16 or older that they'd like to have employed doing something productive for the summer, we'd love to talk to them. Any help we could get from anybody would be very much appreciated.
Is that all you had, Commissioner Hunter? Commissioner Murphy, did you have anything?
Yeah, just more clarification on 7.2.1 and 7.2.2.
All right, so that's a double one. Has the Vice Mayor joined us? I know the Vice Mayor is not going to be with us on Thursday. He had told me about a month ago that he had a trip planned, so I don't know if he's traveling today or not joining us because of that. So we may not be expecting him, but those are the questions we have. 7.2.1 and 2.
Okay. All right, Phil, just so does anybody have any questions on 7.1, that section at all? That's the two appraisal groups and the licensing fee to get the stormwater pipes underneath the railroad.
I'm sorry, would you repeat the question? I think the two items the commission was interested in. Oh, you're asking about whether the stuff under the general heading? Yes,
sir. And if there are no questions there, I'll go ahead and cut Phil loose. He can go on to lunch.
I think, can he just give us a quick flyover of, this is related to the Knob Creek overpass, and this is just one tiny step in a long journey to getting that done, but maybe just a quick, where are we at and what's left to do and timeline thing, and then we'll move on.
For Knob Creek, what you have on the agenda, we have to redo, update the appraisals because it's been 9 months to a year since we last did it. and we put the project on hold. Now that the project's moving, now we have to get updated appraisals. So that's what that's about. As far as the licensing fee, anytime you go underneath the railroad for whatever reason, there is a licensing fee. So we have two 42-inch pipes that go under from West Walnut that goes under state of Franklin and then underneath the railroad in order to discharge into Founders Park. So there's a licensing fee from the railroad that allows us to do that. And that's what you have before you. Now, that won't be the end of the relationship with the railroad, because there will be a subsequent agreement with them to provide CEI services that they need to do the construction work, but that'll happen later.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Phil before he leaves us? If not, thank you for that. Enjoy your lunch.
Okay.
Mr. Peterson, we'll come back to you. We've been joined by the Vice Mayor, so the attendance should reflect that. Do you have any items you want to see pulled? We've already pulled 7.2.1 and 7.2.2. So if you have any others, we need to get them added to the list.
No, I'm good. Thank you. Sorry I was late.
Thank you. Mr. Peterson, do you want to take it for the next two?
Yes, sir. 7.2.1 is a water sewer project where we're phasing out some lift stations. A little bit of background on lift stations. Those are utilized in places to where we're out basically to the end or beyond the end of the existing gravity sewer. And those require continual daily monitoring and maintenance and a continual electricity bill associated with the operation of the pumps. So anytime we get a chance to phase out a lift station by the extension of gravity sewer, we try to take advantage of that. Lift stations are a point in our wastewater collection system that are probably the most prone for overflows, because if the power goes out, then once that wet well fills up, if we're unaware that the power's out, then we get an overflow at that location. So it is risk management as well as trying to reduce ongoing operating costs. This particular section is out on Carroll Creek Road. If you're familiar with where Terra Court is, it's out in that vicinity. We did have 3 bids, and Markle was the low bidder at 2.1. I'm going to guess that one of the questions had to deal with why the discrepancy between the engineer's estimate and the actual low bid. This engineer's estimate and the plans were developed several months ago, and by the time we got it out to bid, some time lapses. The price of construction materials is escalating exponentially by the day. I think that we feel like the majority of this is a result of the acceleration of the materials price over the time period between the plans were finalized and when we got bids in. Any other questions or explanation on that one?
Hey, does the new technology have backup, like solar or something, that if the power goes out, we're not going to have the problem of overflows?
We typically do not have overflows at pump stations. The big pump stations all have gen sets. I shouldn't say all of them. The majority of the big pump stations where we're going to have big overflows, we've got gen sets for backup power. We're still in the process of adding additional gen sets at those locations. As far as backup solar, I don't know the answer to that, Commissioner.
Okay.
I'll ask Tom and try to get you some information on that one.
That's okay. I was just curious if we have any backup capacity now that we have other means of energy production.
Right. Commissioner Murphy, anything else from you, sir?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right, going on to the other one. This is a canopy addition. If you're familiar with where the baler is down at solid waste, it's there where the solid waste office is. That's typically where we bale our cardboard. And we're also, I'll use the word experimenting with baling plastics there. It's a cleaner operation. We get a better resale value when we bale things than when we try to ship it loose. That building isn't big enough to accommodate the baler and back trucks in there where we can keep all the product dry. So the reason for this canopy is to extend the covering of the building out into the parking lot so that we can keep our product dry as we go through the baling operation. This was more than what we had originally hoped to spend there, but what we found once we got into design is that there is an existing sanitary sewer line that runs through the area where this canopy is going to go. So they had to go in and design the spacing on the column such to miss the sanitary sewer line, which resulted in some bigger beams at the top to cover a longer span. And it drove the price of this up higher than what we had originally expected. But as far as the contractor, this is a contractor we've used multiple times. We've had real good experience with Preston, and the money is in the solid waste budget to do this.
Commissioner Murphy or Brock, do you have further question?
I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Wise, I do have a question. Mr. Peterson, with this extension of a canopy, is there some kind of schematic or architectural drawings for this project?
There's a complete set of bid documents that contractors use to bid from. So there's everything from soils engineering report, utility plans, construction plans, elevations, anything that you'd like to see, we'd be glad to get you a copy of that.
Okay. And were they state approved? Did we have to get them approved by the state to proceed with this? Okay.
No, they're done by a licensed architect.
That's
So the architect stamped them, and the building department has reviewed them and to ensure that they're code compliant. And the contractor, on all of our work, contractors are required to submit stamp plans and to get full building permits. So we go through the same process as anyone else would on our construction projects. The state fire marshal gets involved in nursing homes, education, and in large general assembly. Other than that, we're what they call an exempt entity, and the state has granted to us the power to review plans and do inspections locally. So those are really, majority of the time, the only three applications that the state will get involved in.
There was a deduction from the original construction bid amount of $28,000 to remove the metal ceiling. I'm not sure if you mentioned it or not, but what did you guys end up going with as far as material?
I think what they did was just decide to leave it an open ceiling. So it would just be like an exposed beam ceiling rather than putting a ceiling in it. I believe is what they ended up doing. Let me double check that, Commissioner, but I believe that's what they did. Because I know we had talked about ceiling versus no ceiling to keep the birds from roosting on the joist. And they either took it completely out with nothing back in, or they decided to go back in with something like chicken wire over the bottom of the beams in order to keep the birds out.
And one more question. I know that canopies over a certain size have to have a fire suppression system. And so I didn't know if you found that the case for this canopy, or maybe that's not a good question to ask. I just know that when a canopy gets a certain size, you got to have fire sprinkler system added. And I know that could be added cost that you might want to be aware of.
I do not know the answer to that. This is not a really large canopy in terms of area that's covered. It's extremely tall due to the size of the trucks that'll be backing underneath it. But as far as the amount of area that's covered, it's not a really huge area, but I'll ask about the fire suppression and get you an answer back on that today.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are there
any other questions on those two items? Mayor?
Commission? I don't have any. Are there any other items you want to review? Vice Mayor, I indicated that it was my understanding you're going to be traveling this week, so won't be with us Thursday.
Yep, I leave with Preston tomorrow. This is my Christmas present for a Myrtle Beach golf trip that he bought for me back in December. So I'm meeting him and some of his friends and their dads for a father-son golf. So I'm leaving tomorrow. I will miss you, but I'm going to enjoy being out of town for the first time in quite a while. So.
Thank you. What do you have, Mr. Peterson? We do have Dustin with us, and he apparently has found a lot of money and has no idea how to spend it. So if Pete doesn't have anything, I say we just start talking about ways to spend Dustin's newfound windfall.
That's it. We have spent the money. We now need to get you all to approve amending the budget to reflect the expenditures that you've already approved.
That's not near as fun as the way I said it.
No. And of course, I would remind you that BCS will be here to formally present you the audit at the meeting on Thursday. Really good, clean audit with financial results that far exceed expectations as of 12 months ago, right after the pandemic hit. But Dustin, you want to give them a quick overview of the budget amendment?
Sure. I'm going to walk through, there's 7 points on your agenda summary, and I'm going to walk through each one of them. This will be first reading of this ordinance after public hearing, because it's budget. It's public hearing, it's on first reading. Several of the items on here that are included in this amendment, you have already approved, with the understanding that a formal budget amendment would be presented to you, this is what this is. So let me start going down the list here. Number 1, personal services or personnel. You had approved a lump sum payment at your November 5th commission meeting for $500 net for full-time employee and half for part-time employees. Also at your February 4th commission meeting, you approved a 4% pay plan adjustment for employees. Thank you. So those are included, those two are included in number 1. Number 2 is the Cclc grant for Langston. Unfortunately, Langston does not get notification that they are going to receive this grant till after we pass the budget. So to recognize the grant, I have included it in this budget amendment. Number 3 is the additional funding for street resurfacing and public works. You approve this on your November 5th agenda as well. Number 4, this is a project at MPCC that Mr. Trivett is working on. We want to go ahead and include it in this budget amendment. It's about $39,000. Number 5 is an additional paratransit vehicle for a van for mass transit. They currently have 2 budgeted, so we wanted to add 1 more in there. And 6 and 7 are related, and they regard the funding for the expansions at the 3 elementary schools. You may remember when we were discussing the FY21 budget originally, we did not include the funding for construction. We did for design, but not for construction. And that was due to concerns over sales tax. Just unknown on what sales tax collection was going to be. And since the debt service is funded out of the PEP fund, which is sales tax, we held off on that. Obviously, sales tax is way better than budget. You did approve a bond resolution, the initial bond resolution for this at your October 15th meeting, October 15th, 2020. So this is also included in your budget amendment. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions or clear up anything if needed.
Commission, are there questions for Dustin? Looks like you've addressed those. Mr. Peterson, is there anything else you want to cover? You appear to be muted.
Sorry about that. Nothing on the agenda. I know several of you have had questions about the latest round of federal money coming to us. I forwarded to you the other night some preliminary information that we had. That's still a work of art being completed. We're still not sure as to exactly how much money we're going to get nor how the money can be utilized. We do know that the money will come directly from the U.S. Treasury to us. It will not go through the state of Tennessee nor any other agency. Initial review, it looks like we can use it for lost revenues. We can use it to cover overtime and other expenses related to COVID. There is some infrastructure that the money can be used on. Water and sewer and broadband are specifically listed as acceptable expenditures. Beyond that, there really isn't a lot of direction on what that money can be used for. It looks like we're going to get about $13 million coming to us. Half of that will come within the next 60 days. The other half will come 12 months following the receipt of the first payment. Schools will get money from a different allocation. I do know that school can, 20% of it has to be spent on helping children get caught up from what they've lost as a result of the pandemic. The rest of it doesn't have a whole lot of restrictions on it. I know they can specifically do building construction, HVAC replacement, some of those types of things. I'm sure that technology is an approved use. So there's probably going to be a lot of questions about that. I would just ask, give us a week or two until the final regulations are promulgated and sent out to all of us so we know exactly what the rules of the game are. But that's kind of a quick recap of what we know to this point.
Was the time frame like 30 months to spend this money?
December 31st of 2024.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that would be 30 months. And
so is there anything further to address?
we had the downtown issue that might be a good time to address that.
Yes. As some of you have no doubt noticed, there's been an increased issue downtown with litter and people leaving the place less suited than when they found it. Mr. Peterson, can you describe a little bit about what the city is doing and what we're finding and what basically is happening right now?
Well, we added some additional staff to clean down there some time ago, probably been a month or so. The guys go through real early in the morning. In fact, I was through there yesterday morning about 7:40, and that was as clean as I've seen Main Street in a long time. It was, what I use, spotless. It really was. It was nice and clean, it looked nice. And what we're finding is that as the day progresses, there's more people in the downtown area, and the trash accumulates in different locations at an accelerated pace. And we've got folks that are trying to work the entire downtown area, not just Main and Market. And unfortunately, there are times that as our folks are making their rounds, for example, the Breezeway, I think is the location in question, gets overrun with trash and litter. Other than, well, we could put more human resources at it and control it somewhat better. I don't know that we'll ever be in a position to eliminate it in its entirety. It's just kind of the nature of an area where you have a lot of people moving around, and a high percentage of those people with no particular place to go other than sit around downtown. And as to what we're finding normal paper and trash, various hygiene products, and sometimes used medical equipment and different things. And we're trying to keep all that picked up as quickly as we can.
Pete, would it be worthwhile to look at some different kinds of trash receptacles, some that maybe have a little bit larger capacity, or to put additional ones down there? I think the untidiness of it's when they fill up and then people just keep stacking stuff on it. And those cans that they have down there now with the tops on them, you can't just keep pushing trash down into it. And so they wind up just stacking it up on top. But that, and then the other thing, if you could address our police patrol in the downtown. Somebody brought up on social media that it had been cut back because we lost a grant. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. So if you could address it.
Sure. We have not lost the grant. That is another falsehood on social media.
Okay.
We are still asking our officers to pull extra duties and give them overtime opportunities to work the downtown area. During the winter months, with less people out in the colder weather, we did roll back the number of officers that were working through November, December, January. Now that the weather's starting to break again, we will be adding additional officers down there. But even over the last month or so, we have added some extra folks to do a patrol down there during certain times. But as we typically do, when the weather gets warmer, we'll have additional officers down there.
Mr. Peterson, along with the trash in that area, specifically where we reopened that breezeway or walkway, are we seeing increased, not criminal activity, but need for police due to disturbances of different kinds because we've opened that, or because of the this permanent seating that's encouraging gathering in a walkway? And you may need to talk to the chief about that. But
I need to make an inquiry, Commissioner. No one has brought that to my attention, and usually Chief Turner or Deputy Chief Patello we talk 2 or 3 times a week, and they usually keep me up to speed on what's going on. I haven't heard that mentioned to this point. But again, we're just now starting to get to warm weather.
Yeah.
And as all of us are aware, undesirable activity accelerates exponentially as the weather gets warmer.
Yeah, I walked down through that breezeway a couple weeks ago during the day, and the intent, I think, of the furniture is great. I just don't know if it's being used that way. It was kind of intimidating, even during the day, and so I can just imagine at night where people are walking out of, different areas and possibly hanging out there. It can be pretty intimidating to people to walk to their car and people they don't know gathering in a dark or a walkway.
So Pete, I know some time ago, we've had this discussion on and off ever since I've been on the commission, I guess. Oh, sorry, I got a dog barking. Okay. Hang on. Okay, sorry guys. I have two of them up and the other one got out. But we've talked about video surveillance and putting cameras definitely in Founders Park and over in the new park and in the downtown area. I'd like to see some kind of, I know this is philosophically, we need to deal with it, but then from a funding standpoint, and perhaps there's enough flexibility in this new money we're getting that it might be a great time to be able to install stuff like that. And, I know there's a lot of aspects to this, but many cities certainly do it. But is that something we'd be interested in pursuing, at least to look at some kind of plan for it? Or to create the case for it?
I've had traffic and public works look at that. They've got a preliminary budget as to what it would take just to do the downtown area. I'll have to get that out. My recollection is it's about $500,000 to do it. I mean, it's and then we need to have the discussion about, are we going to use it proactively or reactively? And that will drive another phase of the discussion. But I'll get them to freshen those numbers up and we'll get it on an agenda before you here in the next couple of meetings.
Well, we're getting to be the size of a city that, where security and safety is certainly an issue all over town, but particularly down in the downtown area that, if technology can help us with that and staffing is in short supply, we have problems. I mean, that's going to be your case behind the red flex issue, I think, too, is to say we don't have the manpower to do the kind of surveillance that we need on the traffic side. And it would be true of the downtown area, too. So I think a good solid case that we can study and look at the intended and unintended consequences of it. I think at least I'm at the position where I'd like to see that.
Yes, ma'am.
But that's up to a majority of the commission, though, if they want to move in that direction.
I've actually had Phil and his folks look at cameras as well as lighting. They're in the process of working up a pedestrian level lighting plan for downtown. We've got the street lights. Me personally, I think the big Georges are great from a decorative perspective. I think their illumination qualities leave a lot to be desired. So I've asked them to look at a pedestrian level illumination plan downtown, which they're working on and will be part of the budget proposal when we start talking about budget. So I think you're right. There are a couple of things that can be done to try to address some of the undesirable activity that happens downtown. We can certainly put those ideas forward and for further discussion and see what we come up with.
Well, I didn't hear anybody else weigh in on it. I mean, do y'all want to move in this direction or no?
I haven't really given it much thought, Commissioner Brock. So I'm just kind of listening right now. I think it's important. The things that you're saying are important, and we should all chime into it. What do the other commissioners think?
I'd be interested in looking at what you got once you get it cleaned up or ready to present for us to review.
Yeah, I guess my initial thought is I want to task staff with outcomes. I don't want to prescribe for staff means to that outcome. And so what's happening in the breezeway is entirely unacceptable. And I think we all agree. And so I think we just need to figure out what the solution is. Maybe it's the trash canisters like you see in airports that compact the trash so they would hold more volume. Perhaps it's more frequent cleanup. Perhaps it's a security issue. And I really think that becomes a question for public works and public safety, and perhaps the staff at JCDA to give us some guidance on where they think investment needs to be prioritized and policies need to be changed to change the outcome. I don't want to tell you how to do it. I just want to say it's important that we figure something out. The way folks are finding it on their way into work in the morning is not acceptable or conducive to what we need downtown to become. And so I think that's how I would want to respond to that issue. Vice Mayor or Commissioner Hunter, anyone else? Don't want to cut anybody off, but
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, I want to see what solutions are out there, because it could be a $500 fix or a $500,000 fix. Who knows?
Well, and it may just be that the folks that are doing such a good job on cleaning up Main and Market need to be reminded that the breezeway, at 7 o'clock in the morning, the breezeway may be in fact more important than some other section of the block, simply because it's an area that represents so much foot traffic in that early coming and going to work time.
Well, and I like your idea of the different departments working together on solutions, because we're talking about a couple of different items. We're talking about trash and refuse. We're talking about security and then quality of life. And so it'd be good for them to get together to hash it all out. And there could be one solution to fix all issues, or it could be a couple different things. So, yeah.
If there's nothing further for the agenda review or to discuss at this point, we can adjourn our workshop and we'll reconvene day after tomorrow. Does anybody have any last minute items?
Have a safe trip, Todd.
If not,
Tyler.
That's
Hey,
right.
Todd, please tell your son my birthday's in a couple of weeks, so I'll look for my golf trip.
I think he's trying to get the most favored child award.
Well, he took you to Scotland, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he's made it to the top of the list right now. I'm waiting to see what else the others are going to do for me. So I appreciate it, and I will miss you on Thursday. Hopefully, Pete, we can meet in person next month instead of doing Zoom things.
But whatever the commission's choice is, yes.
I think we're better off than we were when we were meeting in the fall, and still have our plexiglass in between. And yeah, I would enjoy speaking to people in person instead of on the computer here. Much better. So yeah,
I am fully vaccinated. You're fully vaccinated, right? Pete's fully vaccinated.
Anybody not vaccinated?
I had my first one yesterday.
What did you tell them?
Joe, I can get you vaccinated now. So you just let me know. John, I don't know. Are you vaccinated?
I think I'm still too young.
Oh, see,
No.
this is hold on a second. We are
You're not too young
tired of
to have the
that.
virus.
I've had
Eric
it up to here
Deaton.
with your I'm too young.
Eric Deaton said I could get people done. All you have to do is let me know your birth date and a contact number, and I will send it to him, and they will get in touch with you about getting your vaccination. So
I do know from our doctor's office, the supplies are coming more regularly, and I think everyone's going to have that access. And so that's an encouraging sign. And if you are eligible, go get it. Go get it now.
absolutely.
And when it's your turn, go get it then. And so thank you. Enjoy your golf trip.
Thanks.
And we'll stand adjourned.
Have a great day.
Thank you.